G'day folks, it's Revan here. Hope you're all doing well, and it's great to see you. Well, I have to admit, I had some random messages from people had been asking me for some technical advice for the near future. And honestly, I was a bit honored and privileged to be asked these type of questions, but at the same time that I was not sure how to respond to it at first, to be honest with you. So, first and foremost, I mean, one of the biggest tech questions that was asked at a random was in regarding to an NVM2 drive that I got on my right hand here, as well as, a standard SSD SATA drive. Now, let's just be honest here. The difference between the two is that it comes down to performance, okay? So it comes down to performance on both these drives, okay, overall. Now, both these drives are incredibly great, and I'll be honest with you, between the two, there is a slight difference between the two in terms of read-write performance, generally speaking, overall. Now, if you were basically on a budget and things like that, both the SATA SSD and also the NVM2 SSD drives are starting to come down in price, so that's a good sign. Now, let's start talking about the SATA SSD. Now, the SATA SSD is basically pretty standard for a lot of laptops as well as desktop machines. Now, the thing is that if your motherboard, your main board that runs the joint of the computer, does not have the support for NVM2 drives, then SATA drives are the way to go. Now, the Samsung ones go at least a good speed of 500 megabytes, something like that. And honestly, SSD, SATA SSDs are not too bad. Definitely, it's a start in the right direction in technology-wise. So if you want to have a quick boot up times and something that you can rely on for playing games and things like that, this will still do the job. I will kid you not, having a standard SSD drive like this will do the job. Now, people had been asking me about capacity wise. It really depends on your budget and everything like that. For me, I first start off with a basic 1 terabyte SSD and then moved up to 2 terabytes and then stayed with it for quite some time. I didn't see the need to upgrade to it because when you have a big normal hard drive used as for storage and stuff like that, I had 8 terabytes worth, and honestly I was enjoying the fact that I can doing whatever I wanted to do, play games, have fun, booting times was great, and also be able to have the general functionality there. Now, later on, when I upgraded my machines, and most recently the newer machines in the past 3 years have been introduced into a new technology world, which is called NVM2 drives. Now, I have to say, in a good 3 to 5 years, NVM2 drives are pretty much the best thing on the market for gaming, performance, on read-write, on applications, processing, well, video editing, if you will, and a few other things. Now, I have to say, as a streamer, I have found a slight difference between the two. Now, when I was operating on a SATA SSD like this one and compared it with this one, I noticed two differences. The NVM2 drive that I'm holding in my left hand here has actually got better read-write capacity in comparison to the standard SSD. The one I got in my hand is big shout out to Panoramics, who actually gave me some solid good advice here, was that we ended up with a very decent, nearly a 5 gigabyte read-write memory SSD, which is a PCI Express 4 NVM2 drive, and this is backward compatible with, you know, like the previous versions, whatever your motherboard can take. Now I have to say that for a crucial drive like this, it is actually fairly decent. It is fairly decent for what it does. There are some other brands like Samsung, for example, like this. They have an NVM2 drive version of this for their machines and stuff, and they actually do a better job. But also other brands like Kingston, for example, is also very good. Now, the trick of the when it comes to looking into investing to these sort of things, you have to understand that when you're reading the technical specifics, it's not all about the speed. It's about the affordability, what you can do. Now, I honestly thought about this for at least a good 2 months before I actually bought this one, because after I was looking some benchmark tests and have a work laptop that does the job like that, I was pretty much convinced that it was the way to go. So when I was doing a test stream with it most recently, I'm actually not regretting it. It's actually, I can play games a lot quicker. I can understand that there's a lot of great functionality for video editing times and responses, as well as game responses, as well as streaming responses have proven, you know, great tenfold. Now, don't get me wrong, this SATA SSD that I do have here in my hand, like this one here, good SSD drive, by the way, from Samsung. No problem with it. I had great results with that, and I thought it was awesome, you know, overall speaking. And the thing is that when I was comparing between the two, I was all about, you know, improving the performance of the machine, what it's made for. And that's what I was pretty much focused on, improving performance. So if you want to, you know, have the functionality to have good performance, definitely both of these items are worthwhile investing into. However, keep in mind though that if your main board does not support NVM2 drives, go with SSD SATA drives and you can't go wrong. Now, I will admit though, there's one minor drawback with an NVM2 drive. Now, there was some reviews I have been reading out loud at some point, and I was a bit puzzled about this, but it seems like that if you have two of them or more on your main board, on your motherboard, on your machine, that it actually balances, you know, like the read-write processing between all the other hard drives on the motherboard, and it slows things down a little bit to a certain level. Now, I don't 100% agree with that it should happen like that, but then again, I couldn't understand it either. However, in all seriousness though, if you only have this one as your, well, your operating system drive with your games that you play and your streaming software, no problem at all, I think. I mean, that's great overall. Anyway, that's just my view. The other thing I want to talk about is regarding to my general system. Now, a lot of people have been asking me this. Now, a few people had been asking me on the side about why do I need to have such a very strong system like this for gaming and streaming and stuff like that. Look, in all seriousness though, what you're seeing here, ladies and gentlemen, is basically I'm future-proofing myself for further upgrades on my system and things like that. First of all, that NZXT 820 case has been around with me for at least about a good, you know, 5 to 6 years. No fault at all. It's a great case. It's got plenty of room. It's an awesome full tower case, and I still have my Blu-ray and DVD burner in there, and it does what I need to do. And mind you, I mean, I do have a see-through side panel that I can actually have a look in terms of my case to see all those sparkly glowing lights and things like that if I wish, but hey, I mean, like, it's just not bad. Plus the fact that the ventilation is very important. Now, the motherboard, at the time, I thought about it between Asus versus Gigabyte, and Gigabyte was pretty much winning of the charts in terms of warranty, as well as, you know, the amount of slots that you can have for PCI Express, at the same time, the general functionality of how much RAM you can support up to. Now, I have to admit, when I was looking at the RAM, I wasn't thinking along the lines of that I should get, you know, 128 gig of RAM. Well, I could have, but I chose not to. 64 gig of RAM is a lot and plenty for what you need to do. I use it for video editing. I also use it for streaming, hardcore gaming, and honestly, I used to do virtual boxing, but I don't anymore. But that's what I used to use it for. But since now I don't need to use that, it's a different story, right? So 32 gig of RAM is plenty for what you want to do anyhow. But the more the RAM, the less pressure it gives on the system. Now, 3600, you know, megahertz in terms of the clock speed for the RAM is pretty decent in a way for AMD systems. Now, the reason why I went with AMD, well, look, more cores and threads, but Intel is improving. So honestly, if I were to go with Intel, we would be looking at those Intel i9, the 12th gen or 13th gen, and go with that instead. But because that due to the availability and the good reviews I was given the inside of the Ryzen 9 5900, I was pretty much led to believe that the 5900X is going to be the way to go. Now, I had a friend of mine who is SoNMG, and we had a nice chat about, you know, the 5900 50X that he has, and just by, you know, listening to him what his view was, and I said to myself, I couldn't really justify the extra, you know, couple $100, for example, just to buy one. And, you know, even though it has a lot more cores and threads and stuff, but overall, I'm happy with the fact I got a nice, decent CPU. So that's why I said to myself that you're probably better off with the 5900X and stay with it. So I have had this system for at least a good, you know, nearly 2 years now, and I'm not regretting it. The CPU cooler that I have is a nice Corsair 115 I Platinum Edition, which is fairly decent. There are better, you know, CPU cooler systems as well, but Corsair has always, you know, won my heart and mind for best cooling of the system all around. And honestly, by reputation, they haven't, well, more or less, I haven't, you know, had any bad experience with it, so I'm pretty happy with that. Now, the video card, I will admit, a 12 gig video card was a bit overkill, but I was able to afford that, you know, that 3080 Ti, and honestly, it's one of the top of the range video graphics cards out on the market at the time, and I really enjoyed the fact of what I can use it for. Great for gaming, great for streaming, and no regrets. Awesome video card all around. Bit of a shame though, there's one drawback though, is about how many power cables you needed to make it run. But hey, it happens, it happens. Now, I will be honest though, that I was kind of like sitting there in the back of my mind that I was trying to figure out what is the next thing I want to do with my system. Now, the graphics card was one of the biggest things I invested on, and then the keyboards and mouse I use is actually fairly decent. It's awesome, and at the same time though, that I do have a nice Cooler Master RGB placemat, which is pretty awesome. The Audio-Technica microphone that you see here on my right hand side of me, well, in all seriousness though, this microphone has done a great job. It's got good, direction, visibility. For a condenser mic, it's actually good, quality for it anyway. There are newer models of this one now, and they are fairly decent. So it doesn't matter if you can't get the 2020 model, but honestly, you can't go wrong with the later models of Audio-Technica. Great, audio all around. Now, the monitors, I have 3 screens at this stage. A 4th screen is on its way, and honestly, that'll be another, 28-inch monitor that I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do. Having 4 monitors helps me with my streaming side of things. And honestly, I do need that, and because I do work from home, but for the streaming side of things, I got 1 monitor, well, onto the side here so I can see the basics, what I need to read and things like that. I got 2 monitors in front of me, one for the gaming monitor and the stream, and the other one is actually for my OBS studio, and also helps me, keep an eye on chat and things like that. So that's actually pretty decent. The sound card, look, I had that sound card for quite some time, and the sound card is still good quality. That's the main thing. Stream Deck, green screen, and things like that. Also the headset, they are nice to have. So when it comes to a headset, I was inspired by the SteelSeries headset because it's got a good quality, and it has 2 modes, gaming and also earphone mode. Honestly, the quality between the two is fairly decent, and you can hear your friends in Discord quite clear. And at the same time, if you were to walk away, for example, or you back way behind, your green screen, for example, do your push-ups or sit-ups or things like that, it's actually pretty fun. Good range on those headsets as well too. The Stream Deck though, honestly, at first, when I was investing in the Stream Deck, I decided to go a little bit overkill, and I thought about getting the 32 key version. I will admit, I haven't gone back from that. I actually thought it was a very good investment, and no arguments. It has been a very good investment. The remote control thing, well, this one here is the Logitech Xbox controller. Very good, if you're playing, Star Wars games, for example, like the Jedi Fallen Order, as well as the new Survivor game, and also, Mortal Kombat and other, other games. But it's actually pretty cool as well too. But now I will admit, there's one other question that I will cover in this video real quick, and that's regarding to Windows 12. Now, Windows 12. Well, finally, I have some good news to say this about the Windows 12. Windows 12, the startup menu bar looks a lot like Windows 10. So, folks, if you're very worried of using Windows 11 and you want to use something that's very simplistic and it does the job what you want to do, and you're very happy with the functionality of Windows 10, remember back in the days when Windows 10 first came out, a lot of us were very hesitant because of, we were worried about losing that, functionality in the start menu bar, like we did at Windows 7. Well, congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. We have told Microsoft in a good way that we want this functionality back. So the good thing is that when Windows 10 came out, everything that happened in Windows 7 and 8 were merged together to Windows 10. So congratulations again, ladies and gentlemen, that everything that we have worked together towards in Windows 10 and 11 now will be merged together in Windows 12. The start menu bar looks great. I have read some good reviews about that. There's also a nice video that was done about this, and I have to say that the start menu bar looks very good. The personalization settings and configuration is similar to Windows 11, but the functionality is still very good. There's, like good DirectX support as well. The file explorer is actually improved, which is good to see. The various commands that you're familiar with in Windows 10 and 11 have been integrated across to Windows 12, and that is still very good. There's still a lot of things that Windows 12 needs to improve on, and definitely is the stability and also loading up applications and having quick basic functionality of voice commands if you were into that sort of thing. But in all seriousness though, that the general aspect of the control panel is still user Windows 10 friendliness, because like if you're familiar with Windows 10 with all the functionality it has in there, the control panel still is very good. Now, Windows 11 has inherited some ideas that have imported across with some of its features. It's not too bad as well too. The general look and feel of it is still similar to Windows 11, but it does have a lot of Windows 10 behind that. So, folks, I mean, like, you don't have to stress too much about moving up to Windows 12. Hopefully, when Windows 12 does come out in the near future, that Microsoft will do a good job of keeping the two systems integrated together, and it should look good. Now, my view about regarding to the upgrade, well, is it better off to have a free upgrade of Windows 12? The answer is yes. Hopefully Microsoft will still do that, and it will suck, in my opinion, that we have to pay for a license after all these years. In all seriousness though, I still have my Windows 7 Ultimate Edition box and my Professional Edition box still in my room in my drawers, and I have been using those keys to upgrade to Windows 10. Now, since I'm on Windows 10, I had no issues ever since then, and I'm loving it. It's a dream come true. Windows 11 and 12, what stopped me from upgrading to Windows 11 was that I saw no improvement. And also the start menu bar, I hated it. And that's one of the things that turned me right off. Windows 12 strikes me that if you have both functionality of Windows 10 and 11 together, hopefully we'll see some good things. Honestly, in regarding to DirectX 12 for Windows, I have one suggestion to Microsoft, and that is rename that to DirectX 24, and that way we know it's a new system that has been released in 2024, and DirectX 24 is the new norm for DirectX 12, and it looks awesome. Wow, and improved. But that's just my opinion. Overall though, great opportunities are coming in the tech world for Windows 12. So it's still in beta phase, but if you do see the first look videos out there, go check it out. It looks good. It looks good so far, but hopefully that Windows 12 will be the way to go in the near future. I'm definitely will be skipping from Windows 11 to 12 from Windows 10, so I had been thinking about it quite some time. Windows 11 has too many bugs with it and everything that's been going on, so I thought the best way to upgrade is to actually wait patiently and just jump from Windows 10 to 12 because you got everything you need. But that's anyway, that's my thoughts, folks. But yeah, definitely stay safe and take care. And thank you for joining for this lovely quick video. Be sure to subscribe, give it a like, and feel free to leave some comments. But yeah, stay safe, take care, folks. Have a good one.